So God has never really been part of your life?
That is absolute bollocks.
Welcome to Significant. It's a podcast by The Yak. I am joined today by an American-Australian singer-songwriter, a man who's known in Bali through The Beat magazine as the editor, and lately as the founder and creative head of one of the most interesting YouTube videos I've seen in a very long time, called Bent Planet. Athron, welcome, man.
Yo, yeah, thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I've been based up north through this whole pandemic, so it's kind of like it's always refreshing and anxiety driven to be back down south.
Because we're here in the heart of Kuta at Double Espresso Studios, which is a strange thing, right? To be in Kuta,
oh, yeah,
especially now.
It's like if ever you wanted to go somewhere to just have a look at how the pandemic has affected anything, take a stroll down Kuta.
You're right. It's like a nuclear war zone.
Yeah, it's wild, hey.
So when you say up north, where is up north?
Well, sort of as far right. I'm in Singaraja, like on the coast.
Wow.
So it's pretty much like directly as far north as you can go, like unless you go right out towards Manjungan, which is a bit further. But as far as the top goes, I'm right up the top.
Why? What are you doing up there? I mean, that's a long way away.
It's pretty trippy. But when the pandemic kicked in, like I've been a full-time musician for the last sort of almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
And so that's my work, that's my gig. And then obviously I was just flying back from Tokyo, where I'd been performing in Japan for 2 months, coming back to Bali for 5 gigs a week, and then bang, start getting the text messages. It's all over, it's cancelled. Just sneak in before they shut down.
Right.
And then my cousin owns a property up in Singaraja, this beautiful big holiday house he's built because he's married to a woman from the village there, and he goes there a couple of times a year with his family. But it's just sitting there empty, and I spoke to him, and he's a security professional. He runs security for the World Bank and all that, so he's very security minded.
Right.
And he just said,
Enough said.
"We need to make a plan now." Like, formulate a plan and action it. So he was basically, dude, if you've got no work and things could go really bad with this pandemic, my security professional suggestion would be get up north, get to my house, lock down, and just be safe.
Get up to the bunker.
Yeah, it was kind of like that.
Has he got like food stocks and stuff?
We went, like I took a mate up.
Spam, you know.
Yeah, we did. We literally built a wall of fucking, canned meat and all sorts of shit, supplies, prepping up. We went full retard, zombie apocalypse, lockdown, prep zone. But you know, it's funny, like we went there to be, like I took a mate up with me, another singer-songwriter performer, Phil Stoodley.
Shout out to Phil.
Shout out to Phil, yeah, he was out of work too, so I was like, mate, just come up with me. We shared the same house here, so we both bailed up there. And the irony was that like we went up there to be safe and just to see what happened. I think like within 3 months, literally the village we're in, Bondalam, became the red zone of Bali for COVID, and the military came in and locked it down with guns and shit, and they're surrounding the village, and we weren't allowed in or out for 2 weeks. We were like, what the hell is going on?
Athron, tell us how you grew up, man, and what's your story?
Well, yeah, I was the American Australian bit comes from I was born in the States. I was born in New York.
Okay.
And then within
Dad, Mum, what were they doing?
So I mean there's a massive, really weird, crazy story there about my father, which I'll try and give. I know it's not the longest podcast, so I'll try and give a quick synopsis. But basically, my mother was the story growing up for me was that my mother was with a guy for about a year, and then she fell pregnant. He sort of lost it, and in a bad way, and just wanted her gone. So kind of forced her out of the country, kind of thing. But she sort of pretended to leave, but then she stayed and gave birth to me. I was there for 6 months, and then she sort of had enough, and she took me back to Australia, and I was raised.
He lost it
in Australia.
He was a musician, or what was it? When you say lost it,
Lost it, as in like most people that lose it are musicians.
Yeah, really. I don't know.
No, he just had a good name in the town and all this kind of stuff, and he didn't want to Her story was that he was really upset that she was pregnant, and he didn't want people to know that. Was
he married?
She was pregnant. No, but she just sort of fed me this story of him being a real asshole, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, I grew up with this idea of who he was, and eventually I decided to track him down when I was sort of later in life.
Right.
And I eventually found his kids online and got to know them over 10 years. There was this long build-up process of me getting to know them. And then when I was 38, I decided to go to the States and finally meet him and them.
Your half brothers and sisters?
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
So
and your dad? You didn't know your dad then?
Didn't know him. Like I had met him once when I travelled when I was 14. I went through the States. I met him briefly, but it was a very sort of strange sort of situation. But anyway, I go there when I was 38 and to meet him, and I finally get to meet the family, and I feel accepted and have this amazing 3 days in New York with them all. And at the end of the 3 days, I'm sitting there with him having this barbecue, and I say, you know, it's really great to finally know all you guys. And I know you didn't really want to. He'd sort of made it obvious he didn't really want me to come, but he finally accepted it because the kids pushed him. And I was like, I know you weren't open to this at first, but this is great that you've accepted me, and it's really great. Let's all move on. And I said, but it would be nice if you just sort of did me the honour of acknowledging to me that I'm your son, and you know, we can move forward. And he goes, well, I don't think you are my son.
Oh, there we go.
And I was like, what is this massive thing?
Hey, man.
So there's this whole bit. Since then, there was like a massive getting the DNA tests and finding out he wasn't my father.
He wasn't?
He wasn't,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
And then another massive 6-year search.
Oh, gosh.
And this is, I'm saying this because it's an interesting...
Let's just stop there, because, you know, so your half-brothers, or you thought half-brothers and sisters were convinced that you were their family.
Yeah, it was this wild...
I mean, did you have any clue when you kind of looked at your dad? Did you kind of go, he doesn't...
I didn't see a lot of resemblance, no.
Right.
And let's be frank, there's definitely not. But I felt like I was so McCann, my mother's side, from my grandfather. But this is all leading to...
McCann, sorry, is
my mother's maiden name,
mother's maiden name,
that's which I've carried on.
By,
yeah.
Right, okay.
So I mean, this is all leading to
that would be Irish or Scottish?
Yeah, Irish, Irish roots way back. We were McCanns were literally on the convict ships that came over, so I'm full convict blood.
Sweet.
Yeah. But yeah, in the first lockdown in 2020, through all these 6 years of investigating, trying to find my real father, I finally found this person that I figured knew who my real father was, and had this whole amazing Zoom call. And it turned out she was my auntie. And she's like, by the end of this Zoom call where I'm presenting all this evidence and going, I think that you might know someone in your family that could be my father. By the end of the Zoom call, she's like, I think my brother's your father. So, So yeah, this whole lockdown has kind of been a big... It's led to this incredible...
So you'd say 38. How old are you now?
I'm 44
So
now,
this is quite a recent thing for you to discover.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty
have you then been in contact with your father?
Well, unfortunately, he passed 4 years ago, sort of while I was on the search. But the beauty of it is that he's got 3 amazing kids who I'm now super close to. So there was this incredible sort of thing of getting DNA tests with them, realising it's 100%, we are brothers and sisters. And so this lockdown's been quite interesting because we've managed to have a lot of time doing Zooms and sort of getting all the closure that's needed on this massive journey. So I know it's a long answer to your question of where are you from?
That's what we want to hear.
But,
because that sort of stuff, I mean, are you still close with your sort of former half-brothers and sisters at all?
Yeah, you know what, they call me their faux bro.
Wow. Faux bro.
And we just...
cheers to that, man.
Yeah, I know. It all became like a laugh. I mean, I was literally... It was just rocking up to some random dude's house. If you look at it plainly, I'm harassing this guy's kids for 10 years, telling them I'm family, building relationships, going in. I spent 10 years building a relationship just to get a free 3-day holiday on Long Island, basically, with a stranger's family.
Oh, I'm sure deeper than that for you, for sure. That's a big journey, brother.
No, but it was. They're really good humoured about it and loving people, and I'll always be connected with them for that anyway.
I'm going to say that generally that kind of story can fuck you up, you know. But you seem a very level-headed and accomplished, you know.
I think like
good-looking, tall guy, you know, as a bit of a rock star. I mean, you seem to have handled it. You've got a very level sort of outlook, it seems to me. But at some level, it must be extremely emotional for you to have that kind of baggage, and then also, you know, how your mother might fit in with that, and your kind of relationship with her, and
definitely.
Sort of stuff.
I think there's a
will
real
form some pretty strong beliefs, probably very different beliefs in you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny how quickly your whole concept of reality can flip on its head and cause you to go inward and question everything. Because as soon as one major foundation is suddenly dissolved and you realise you were standing on something that wasn't solid and it's all different, it leads you to question everything, right?
Of course.
But I think I've moved around a lot in my life, and I think I've always kind of been a bit addicted to the idea of like bizarre, abnormal life. And so the more that weird shit happens to me, or, you know, to throw my world around, I think the whole attitude you've got to have is just like, holy shit. Like, I mean, we love roller coasters because they take us on these extreme, massive adrenaline rushes. I mean, if that's how your life hits you with these huge ups and downs, if you just keep getting frustrated, annoyed and shocked and depressed by it, you're not really appreciating the beauty of the highs and the lows.
Where's your bedrock? Where does that come from?
I mean, the bedrock. I don't know.
I mean, you know, you just told us that a roller coaster has obviously been your main road, you know, in your entire life. But on some level, you know, you're extremely stable. So where does that come from?
I guess. I mean, it's funny hearing someone say I'm extremely stable, because there's a flip side that I always feel like I'm over emotional, and I go through a lot of ups and downs with that,
right?
In and out of sort of depressive stages and all that kind of stuff. But
you hide that very well.
Okay, that's good. Well trained.
Don't we all?
Well, yeah, exactly. But I guess like underneath it all is just a real. The more you have your foundations rocked, the more you realise that foundations can't be based on an outer belief system. Like foundations have to be based on your own personal understanding of just inner growth and realising that a true loving connection with people around you and the relationship you form at all times with whoever's in your sphere at that time, that has to be real. It has to be a really beautiful, strong, loving connection. Right. And you know, people come and go, so it can't be like reliant on one person around you, because it's not a sort
of in the now kind of.
Yeah, I guess it's like just acknowledging that no matter where you are and no matter who's around you and no matter what you're doing, like there has to be an awareness that it's all for this beautiful, positive thing called growth within you. And if you just let it keep punishing you, then you're just going to end up a mess, and you're going to let the booze take over or the drugs take over. But everything should be just taken as an amazing story. That's like.
So what were you like then given this amazing story you just shared with us? Thanks. You know, what were you like as a sort of teenager in Australia? Were you the angry kid? Were you the quiet kid?
I wouldn't say I was the angry kid. I wouldn't have appeared as the angry kid. I was pretty over emotional, like internally. I had a really intense relationship with my mother. She believed she was a prophet for the end time. She was very hardcore spiritual Christian who constantly believed. It was kind of like that constant indoctrination that like.
Did she follow a church or?
We got kicked out of a lot of churches because she would stand up and prophesy, and so church ended up being at home, and she believed very intensely in the spiritual world. So there was constant attacks from demons and all this kind of crazy. It was a very crazy environment that way. So. I had and she was an emotionally, she was going through mental breakdowns and stuff through my teenage years. So that affected me a lot, and I kind of pulled into a world of music and songwriting. It's probably what pushed me down that path.
But so what I was trying to get to earlier. So God has never really been part of your life, or has been part of your life?
Well, I was intensely believing that line of thought until I was a born again Christian. I mean, I didn't really have a choice. I was raised a born again Christian, praying in tongues and all this kind of stuff, and so that was the foundation of my belief system of how everything operated, the world and spirituality and all that. At 21, it just clicked. I just had that click moment where I went, holy shit, it's all bullshit, you know. So that was another moment where...
What brought that on?
I guess I was never, because we got kicked out of a lot of churches, I wasn't institutionalized within a church foundation where I stayed within it. I was always rejecting the religious tones of spirituality, even though I believed Christianity was truth and Jesus Christ was the Son of God. So therefore, all my friends, when I left home early and then formed all these friendships with people that weren't Christians, because I didn't really like the way religious Christians thought or acted, but I still believed in the core of it. And I still remember the exact moment. I was in Brisbane on a bus going over the Brisbane River, sitting with all my friends on the bus. And I told them all about Christianity. And in my head, if you tell others the truth, then they will be awakened to the truth, and then they will know the truth, and they'll come to know God. Like, that's this whole belief in Christianity, that if you share the gospel, then people will be awakened. Right. And I'm sitting there thinking, I've talked to all my mates about Christianity, and they respect me for it, but none of them believe it. And if this bus goes off this bridge in this very instant and we all die, according to my belief, I'm the only one that's going to go and be in eternal salvation, while all these beautiful people around me who bring love to my life are going to hell. And in that instant, I just went, fuck that. That is absolute bollocks. Right. And it really, and then I just...
Well, when you say fuck that, I mean, you're saying fuck that to a doctrine and a religion.
To the idea that Christianity was the absolute and utter truth, and that the gospel in the Bible was the only way to be saved was through, you know, Jesus, and there was eternal damnation if you didn't accept Jesus, all that stuff. So,
but given all that, given that, you know, you can reject Christianity, and then and there's a realization that no one on the bus was thinking about that stuff, right? So, and now that you know there are other religions and other ways, do you still have a connection in some form and with a higher power, and how would you define what that connection is?
Yeah, I absolutely feel like that. You know, feel is just such a open word, right? But I do believe that there is a lot more than the physical. It's funny because I'm very wary of going too far down a belief path with anything, because I've already been down that path. Right. But I certainly believe that there's a lot more going on than we can see. I believe, you know, I'm open to the idea of reincarnation, and that we exist outside our bodies when we leave, whether it's in a form of energy or whether it's actually a consciousness that then is reborn again, and we get, and you know, if I was to theorize on the idea that when I leave this body, I suddenly remember all the other times I've been in other bodies, and I go, okay, well, what's the next lesson? Let's do this again, and go back into another. There's
so
a whole...
You're talking as if you've sort of obviously studied it, but have you ever experienced that as a outside force or not?
Have I experienced any spiritual sort of...
Yeah.
I have. I've had a lot of very strange spiritual experiences. I still question a lot of it in terms of...
Right.
I never want to just completely believe it's spiritual or whatever. I always want to think, well, maybe there's a scientific explanation to what I experienced.
Right.
Because I was also very heavily influenced by... I mean, I used to have some serious spiritual experiences as a kid, and my mother was always telling me that they were demons attacking me. So there's always an interpretation to every event, and then you have to think, well, what's really going on, you know?
Right.
But
you recognise that there's something there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. That's
brilliant. So thanks for... Sorry, that was very deep.
Going straight down a hardcore path.
That was down the rabbit hole, yeah. And,
down the rabbit hole.
Brilliant, man. And I could talk about that for
I know.
days. You know.
That's like a 4-day chat.
Because
right
I think
there.
for me, I mean, a lot of it's got to do with vocabulary and, of course, religious doctrine, you know, which is all horseshit. It's just a way of trying to interpret and then control, you know, the populations of the world. But... I'm glad that you know. Well, you must be glad that you've experienced so many things to be able to make up some sort of a story that works for yourself. Anyway, let's get off God.
Yeah,
love you, God.
I've been trying to get off God for years.
Yeah. But a couple of things that bring up. I mean, I didn't know that about you, by the way. I knew nothing of your story and how you grew up. So thanks for again sharing that, man.
Yeah, no worries.
But I could see that. Now your YouTube. I want to talk to you about your new YouTube show. And I say new because I've only just.
It is new,
seen
though.
it. Is it new? Yeah.
Yeah, it's only launched.
It's fucking good,
2 months
man.
ago.
I have to say, and I'm a pro, but I look at that and I see the work that's gone into it. It's called Bent Planet. It tells the stories of people, I guess, you've met traveling that in some way try to vocalize, I guess, what you've just shared with us in this search for what the fuck is it all about. You've got one episode I watched was about the guy on the visa in India.
Yeah.
Who thought he had a 60-day visa, had a 30-day visa on the hippie trail, and just went through this extraordinary journey to get across the border. And please watch it. Bent Planet on YouTube, right?
Yeah, Bent Planet.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But it's the storytelling in it is superb. What really grabs me as well is the graphics, the level of the graphics and the way you're telling that story is off the scale.
Oh, cheers, man.
It is, man. I mean, that must take... I mean, I know you're up there in the bunker. Got nothing else to do.
It's very bunker related.
But I also work in video and stuff, and I recognise that to put something like that together, and they're not short, right? They're 10 minutes.
It's a lot.
10
to
12
15 minutes now, yeah.
The level of graphics and the way you tell the story is absolutely sublime. And yeah,
Cheers.
man, how did you get... I mean, you know, you've just explained how you got onto it because you've got all these stories and you've obviously been through this life and you've just got them to tell, you know, so...
I guess I've really got the pandemic to thank. I mean,
Right.
first of all, I went deep into video editing when the pandemic hit. I just started making my own music videos for my music, just out of the frustration of you can never find someone else to do exactly what you want. So I started mastering Final Cut Pro, and I went deep in the hot.
You're still doing Final Cut Pro?
I know.
Oh my God, you're like the only person on the planet
I know.
still using
I've got to
that.
switch to
Not
Premiere,
using Premiere,
right? Yeah,
right?
I know. It's that classic thing where I come out of my cave and I'm like, I've mastered it. And everyone's like, mastered that?
we've moved
what,
on.
on an Atari? You fucking... Yeah. So I went deep into the editing hole with music videos and graphics and just loving that. And at the same time, I was going down the storytelling rabbit hole because I'm addicted to true stories.
Right.
So I was on YouTube just following anyone I could that told a great true story. You know, I'm addicted to true crime and even just watching the interrogation interviews for police in the interview rooms. Just anything like that just grabbed me. And then there was one particular storyteller, that really got me, and I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, man, I know a lot of people with insane stories, you know.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favourite things to do is sit around listening to someone's great stories, and then
I've got a couple for you.
I bet you do, mate. And I'm sure, mate, you'll be a Bent Planet episode. I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm about to read your book, so I'm sure I'll pull a few out of there and be like, Nigel, we're going to do this one.
Yeah, there's a few in there, but I have others.
Good.
Yeah, anyway, we're going to talk about this. It's just a fucking great job that you've done. And how's it going with the promotion? Because I see there's a huge amount of content out there in the world. Everyone's a YouTuber. The most successful kids of 6 or 7 doing kind of toy reviews. You know, you compete against this whole kind of American machine of affiliate marketing and all that crap that's out there on YouTube. How do you cut through it and get your brilliant show in front of enough people for it to make you a living and also affect, just to get your story across and affect the way people think, which is
that's the eternal
that's
the eternal question. I mean, I'm not ignorant to the fact of what it takes to do that in terms of all the effort you have to put in you can't just put a video on YouTube and hope that 1 million people see it. So I spent a lot of time, whether it's joining Facebook groups of storytelling, other storytellers,
doing podcasts,
just your podcasts. I mean. But at the end of the day, it's still very, very small. You know, it's a very small channel. And, you know, not a lot of people have seen it yet.
Yeah.
But what keeps me burning is that the people that have seen it have reacted really nicely to it, and I've gotten some great feedback. Probably the best feedback I've had of anything I've put this much effort into.
Right.
And I can see that, and a lot of people are coming over from some of my favourite storytellers that I watch on YouTube. I've had their fans coming over to me and saying,
Sweet.
oh, this is great to find someone else. So that's really motivating. But you have to treat it, if I treat it like, if something doesn't go viral in a month, I'm going to give up. That's just a silly attitude, right? Like the beauty of growth is it's only worth it if you're passionate.
Yeah.
Oh, I love storytelling. I love talking to these people and getting their stories.
Very clearly, you know.
Yeah, so I'm willing to just keep doing it for as long as it takes, and if it slowly grows and it affects more people and more people get involved and enjoy the story.
Well, check it out, man. Bent Planet. Yeah, Fleety, you're gonna check it out, right? Yeah, crazy. We're in the studio here at Double Espresso. It's an amazing room, isn't it?
It's great. I mean, it's kind of exciting to be down in the guts of Kuta doing something as well, because it's just
really
like, I mean, the last time I was down here, you don't want to know what I was doing. I don't remember what I was doing.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room as well. We haven't spoken about your musical career, because I mean, I knew you first as a music journalist, if you like, and then one day I walked into a bar and you were in the corner singing, you know, with your guitar. I was like, oh, fuck, that's right. What the fuck, you know?
Yeah.
So you got into that when you were a teenager as well. Picked up a guitar.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I was hooked from the moment I heard. I mean, I'm a grunge era boy, right?
Okay.
So the moment I heard Eddie Vedder and Kurt Cobain screaming into a mic, I just went, "Oh my God, you can express emotions like that," and I was hooked. So I've been in bands and songwriting since then. When I moved to Bali to be editor for the Beat magazine, it's probably the biggest chunk of life where I wasn't focusing on music so much, and I just put it all. And I moved to Bali when I was 31 to run an entertainment magazine, so I got pretty caught up in the nightlife and all that. So music wasn't at the forefront, but definitely by the end of the second year with the Beat magazine, there was that craving inside me of just like, I need to get back to my music. You know, I can't just be.
Yeah, no, the editing that can grind you down.
Yeah,
especially your listings magazines. You know, I mean, we all love music and that, and we all want to know where things are on. But you know, man, those listings and the typos in the listings and the times and this and that, and it's a small in terms of size. It was a small, still is a small format. You know, so. Your eyesight must be shot to shit, you know. Just checking those lines.
Not that it's gotten better from editing on a screen for the last 2 years, but yeah, no. So by the time I was sort of realizing I can't just keep up just being a nightlife music magazine or entertainment magazine editor, I started booking some gigs around the island, and it was funny because at the time there wasn't really a lot of like. I was literally the first guy going to these beachside bars, like. And saying, you know, do you want to do some acoustic stuff? And built up these gigs, and slowly and then very quickly I just went, right, I'm back to what I want to be doing. So I left the Beat mag and just went full time with the music.
No, good for you, man. Yeah. And how's that going? I mean, you still pick up the guitar and you still perform?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the last 2 years has been a complete dead zone, obviously, in terms of live performance. Yeah. But it's also given me the opportunity to go hardcore on my original songwriting. So I've released a bunch of singles and a concept album and done a load of music videos, and that's my absolute. Like, I can't even describe how much I feel attached to music. You know, that's my absolute love.
So I'm going to put you on the spot then. Top 3 songs ever recorded.
Top 3 songs ever recorded?
On the guitar. On the guitar.
Oh, on a guitar. Well, I mean, there's a million... What, you talking about just guitar?
Your top 3 songs ever recorded.
Look, I'll just throw some songs out there that have...
No. You're going to have to think about top 3. Start with number 3.
Come on.
Well, okay, start with artists. Top 3 artists on the guitar.
On the guitar.
For you.
Can we remove the on the guitar bit? Because it's just so...
Okay, well, I just don't want to do, like, club classics, you know, because I know...
I'm not going to do club classics. Okay. I'm not a club baby.
You're over that era, at least, so you somehow managed to avoid...
I only even stepped into clubs when I moved here to work for the Beat, and I pretended I knew what genres.
Okay.
You know, I did a thing. Cool. I did a.
Lady, we're out of beer, man. What's going on? Jesus Christ! This Double Espresso Studios.
I did a series in the Beat called what genre of electronica are you?
Yeah.
And I got all these different DJs to define what that genre was.
Right.
And the only reason I did it was because I had no fucking clue.
Right,
and I was like, I'm running this
I
magazine.
faked my way through the speed garage and house.
Right.
I was like, house music. I still to this day couldn't tell you what the fuck house music is.
I don't want to even.
I mean,
try
I sort
and define it.
so it just bores me. But I love dancing to it, and all the rest of it that went with it. But okay, listen. Okay, so top 3 artists that you. You've mentioned Kurt.
I mean, yeah, I can tell you top 3 artists that have affected my life.
Yeah.
I mean, Pearl Jam was the one that just absolutely. I mean, when you say guitarist, like I write with the guitar and I play guitar obviously, but I always feel more connected to vocals because that's where my singing and my lyrics that's where I really feel like I'm expressing myself.
Yeah,
I'm not such an accomplished guitarist like guys like Jimi Hendrix that literally express themselves through their fingers. So I feel like I express myself through my voice and my words. So to me, when I think about great songs and great artists, I immediately get pulled towards the song and the music, the singer. So I guess the guy that throughout my life really affected me emotionally was Eddie Vedder.
Okay.
And it's funny because
shout out to Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, so many people sort of laugh at the grunge and the Eddie and all that stuff now, but really, when you were that age, when I was 14, he really spoke to me and he changed my life, and I've loved his growth as a singer and a songwriter throughout time, and he's one of the only, he's probably the only one that's still alive. Like even Chris Cornell's gone now. It's crazy how many of them have gone, and that's such a sad thing, but.
It's probably because Eddie never did the smack, It's like, and all the antidepressants. How many did they find in his blood? 20 different,
Yeah,
God bless him. He's a rock and roll star. Playing the drums,
wild.
but he never looked like he was doing it, did he?
You talking about Taylor now?
Yeah, sorry, Taylor.
Right.
Yeah,
Taylor. Yeah,
we just lost.
That's another brutal blow.
Yeah, at 50.
Yeah, and then you've got guys like, I know I'm moving away from guitar. I'm going to singers, but then you got Mike Patton to me is the vocal god. Like his ability to is just the ability he has with his voice is just uncomparable. Like you cannot compare it to anyone else. He'll tour nationally as the lead vocalist for an Italian opera. Like how do you pull that off?
Right.
And then the next week he'll be like doing a screamcore tour around the world with a band that he's written all these screamcore songs for him. He's just an unbelievable vocalist. So they're two like guys that are very different. Eddie Vedder's a very introspective, emotional, poetic songwriter. Mm-hmm. Mike Patton's a very just like fucking brute force male testosterone. Let's fucking go, but just cool and just succinctly incredible with his vocals.
Number one. There we are. Number one.
Number one?
Yeah.
I'd say Mike Patton's number one vocalist.
Oh, okay. I thought you were leading up to...
right. Okay.
Dave
and now I'm trying to think of like who's the...
No, but like the back in the day stuff, you never... I mean, you're not into, Dylan and...
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm just talking about the guys that got me in my teens, that carried me right through to now.
Okay.
And then as soon as I started to... when you're a kid, right, you're like, it's only grunge, nothing else. And then as you learn music, your ears open and you're like, holy shit, like everything that is well written is fucking amazing. And so your Bob Dylan's and the Beatles, man. I mean, the Beatles are probably, to be honest, at this point, number one for me in terms of, it's the old cliche, the Beatles are number one. But as much as Mike Patton and Eddie Vedder affected me all those years, I look at and connect with the Beatles as songwriters, like, man, Paul and John. And those recent releases, have you seen those?
Of course. Yeah. Stunning to watch.
I mean...
Did you see that one where when they were just fucking around in the studio, aren't they? And they've got a few lyrics. I mean, they've clearly got the talent. And McCartney's talent just comes across there. You go, wow, he was clearly the guy, I mean, the others in the room were brilliant, but I think McCartney... just the way he approached songwriting.
Wasn't he amazing?
Like when they were coming up with Get Back, did you see that?
And
you saw it take shape.
Yeah.
Like in the moment. And he's got a couple of lyrics and a couple of chords. He's got John there, and where there's no lyrics, he's just making shit up. They're just making shit up until it's like, suddenly it's like, da, da, and they get into that, and you're like,
What I love about it is...
gives me chills thinking about it, right?
It really is. Like, I mean, it's the way a lot of bands and songwriters write. I mean, like, often you just sort of, some writers might write lyrics and then try and find a vocal pattern to suit it. But I do it the other way as well. I'll just improvise vocals and sing, and then I'll record it and listen back, and then I'll shape the lyrics to suit the vocal pattern. But to see those guys, you always have this impression of who people are, right? Through the media and through all the representation of what other people have told you who they are. Yeah. Everyone else says, this is who they are through our lens. And all of a sudden you've got this... I never even realised that Paul was just such a vibrant... Yeah. He ran that fucking band, right?
Well, everyone was like, oh, John Lennon's so cool. We're going to go with John,
And Paul was just... he was filled the room.
Paul McCartney's in a different room, So what I'm going to say about that is that what became clear to me watching those videos, of the old Beatles stuff and Lennon, McCartney and Ringo there, just incredible.
Just dudes.
What just gets me, and I've in my life had the opportunity to speak to some great artists as well, and it's always like, where does it come from? People will say, is it an inspiration or whatever? I honestly believe, looking at those kind of videos, that these things are just out there, and the real skill is in providing a channel for them, for those things to become a reality. When I talk to artists, they say, that wasn't me, I didn't do that.
It's funny because when I was a kid, my mother used to made me burn my Nirvana albums and stuff because of her Christian beliefs. And she said that was evidence that it was Satan writing through them, the fact that they said that. And then at the same time, I'm in my room expressing myself and writing stuff, and I feel like something's writing through me. Right. So here's my mum telling me that it's demonic, but I'm there, but I'm going, but I do that. That's how I release my emotions, and it doesn't feel demonic. It doesn't
feel evil.
Perfect. It feels like a good thing is coming out and coming through. So it really is like when you asked me earlier, do I believe in anything higher or beyond this? That's that zone that all musicians and I guess artists in the middle of a painting would feel it as well. That zone you get into where all of a sudden you don't exist. The only thing that exists is the art that's pouring through you. Correct. And you feel like a pipeline.
Correct.
That is to me the awareness of something greater just going on. Because you're just tapping into this huge big energy that's just pulsing through you. And
correct, man.
And if what you're creating affects more people through the beauty of it than just you, then you've already caused a greater existence, right? Because if you affect more than one other person, then you're only one. If you can affect 10 people with this art or this music and they get an emotional buzz and they feel enlightened and better in that moment because of it, then fuck, that's so worth living for, right?
And isn't that the channel that we spoke about at the beginning that's just out there, man, and recognise it? That's what I'm going to leave it there. I don't think we can go any further.
No worries.
And that is just a perfect place. Athron.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me in, man. Buddy. Really good to catch up.
Cheers. Love you, man.
Cheers.